not having to order you another passport and wait for it to come in. You got to go to the post office and take a picture. Like, nobody got time for that. Hello, honey bunnies. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Adriana. If you're new here, hey honey bunny, how you doing? My name is Adriana. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're a returning subscriber, hello honey bunny, how you doing? So today we are going to go through something I wish somebody would have told me when I took my first international flight to Cancun. Oh my god, so much stuff happened on that flight. It was literally ridiculous. Like, I'm not even sure how we got through it. It was so much craziness that I wish somebody would have told me when I started flying, especially my first international flight, because I feel like when you look stuff up, people tell you like all this BS and none of it is helpful. I just feel like half of it is just, they need to get in the rooter of the tutor, okay? So if y'all see me looking down, it's because I have my cellular device right here and I wrote down everything that I wish somebody would have said to me. Okay, be prepared. Number one, be prepared for customs to take all day long. Okay, be prepared for them to take all day long. Oh my god, we went to Mexico, right? You gotta go through customs when you get there. Coming into the country. Look at my face. It took us literally like 30 to 45 minutes to get through customs. And of course you go through customs, they ask you why you're there, when are your dates that you're supposed to be traveling, how long you expected to be in the country. Like, and then on top of that, that was during COVID, so we also had to show that we had like our vaccinations, or we had to get tested, you know, before you left, and we had to have proof of all of that, and we had to complete a form for us to be able to go through customs and be able to enter the country. Oh my god, it was ridiculous. It took so long. Like, I just can't believe it took so long. And for my first international flight, like, that was crazy. I was actually kind of shocked by that. I was just like, wow, customs moves this fucking slow. But let's be honest, every fucking type of customs I've ever had to go through, they go slow as fuck. And I know they have to be thorough, blah blah blah, but it's just like, come on now, do it like I'm trying to blow up the country. No, I'm not. Because same thing happened when we came back into the United States. We flew from Mexico to Chicago, and we had to go through customs when we got to Chicago. Forever. Took forever. And now they have, well, back when we traveled, and they had some system where they had to take a picture of you. I look fucking crazy. Like, I know that picture, whatever it is floating around, I hope they burn it, because I know for a fact that picture is horrendous. But yeah, be prepared for customs to take all day. Number two, buy global entry if you can afford it. Buy it if you can afford it, because global entry is where you can essentially like skip a lot of the bullshit, the fucking security, the customs, all that shit. I think you can skip customs with it. Because I got TSA, like the global entry, after I went to Mexico. So I can't tell you word for word exactly. Like, I haven't flew to be able to use it outside of the country yet. But if you can pay for it, just pay for it. Everybody that I see online, I know TikTok, YouTube, people always say the global entry is worth the price. And for what I've heard that you can get with that amount of money, it's basically like saving you so much more time in the airports. And I feel like it's especially beneficial if you travel often. Like, if you take one trip a fucking year, cool. It may not be beneficial for you. But if you take a lot of flights, you may need to think about getting it. And I know people always, when there's money, how valuable is your time? That's the question at hand. How valuable is your time? How valuable is your time? Because when you value your time, you'll pay to go through all that shit. If you've ever had to stand in them lines, you will pay extra to go through it. I'm telling you, you would. If you have a layover coming into the country and you are on a connecting flight from said like entry into the country, make sure your connecting flight is hours out. make sure it's hours out. When we flew to Mexico, again, my first international flight, when we flew into Mexico, we had a flight going to DC from Chicago. There was a 45-minute, I think like 45 minutes to an hour in between of the flights. Now keep in mind, go through customs, you got to go through security again. I didn't realize how complicated Chicago's airport was. Like, you have to take a shuttle from when you come into the country. You have to take a shuttle to the other part to go through security, to go through the gate, to walk the Timbuktu land across the world to get to your flight. And we was in custom for hours. And the crazy thing was, we weren't the only ones who actually missed our flight. When we flew for Cancun, we were like one of maybe 12 couples of people that missed their flight because we were all stuck in customs. We were all stuck in customs. And then of course you call the airline and you're just like, well, what the fuck? Like, I just missed my flight because of customs, but I have to go through customs, so I couldn't have got to the flight. And they're basically like, oh, well, yeah, that was your fault. We don't control customs. So they were saying that when was the next flight out? I want to say it was like a few days. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 days. And it was all, yeah, we can get you on a flight home, but it's going to be 4 days from now. I'm not sitting in no airport for 4 days. So I think I ended up buying us a ticket on Southwest the next following day. But we had to stay overnight in the airport. When I tell you, I was so pissed. By the time we finally had got home after we flew to DC, drove down to where we lived at, we were so exhausted. I think me and Shamia slept for like 24 to 48 hours. Like, no lie. I really do think we slept for that long. We were so tired. We had stayed in the airport all night. Keep in mind, when we got back into Chicago, going through customs, it had to be middle of the day. So we slept in the airport from literally from like 8 or 9 o'clock all the way until like 7 o'clock the next morning. When we left, we were so irritated. So now I know better. I know if you, especially even if I do have global entry, I'm still pushing it a few hours out. I still am, because you don't want to push it like for real. And that was just a headache when all of that stuff happened. Like, I was definitely scared we weren't going to get home. Thank God it all worked out, but oh my God, that was crazy. 4, check the exchange rate for the company you're traveling to. And check with your bank before you leave to see if you can exchange the currency before you leave. Now, why is this important? Because a lot of places, especially when you go over the country, a lot of places will charge you astronomical credit card fees and stuff. And you even go to some countries where they don't even accept card. Like, a lot of people will only accept cash. So with that being the case, you're gonna need some cash on you. I know we had to end up exchanging cash when we went to Cancun at the hotel, but they charge you like a little bit more than what the actual exchange rate is, and essentially that's how they make money off of exchanging your money for you. So you're paying extra just to exchange the money. That's crazy. So I would recommend checking the exchange rate, and I would also recommend checking with your bank, because there are some banks that can actually exchange the money for you before you leave. Now, you may need more money once you get there, but you'll deal with that when you deal with it. But it would have been a lifesaver had I exchanged the money here before we left, because like I said, I ended up paying extra money just to exchange the money, and that's crazy. Number 5, get your passport early. Oh my God, I cannot stress this enough. Like, for real, I gotta get close to y'all. Get your passport early. Get it early. Don't wait. Don't be that person. Every time I meet somebody that does not have their passport and we're going somewhere, oh my God, they're trying to take forever. I'm gonna get my passport 3 weeks before we go. Do you not know how long a passport can take to come in? And you need your passport when you leave out of this country. Like, you need it. So it's just like I'm for real side-eyeing you, because why would you even want to test that? Because yeah, they can estimate it may take 4 weeks, but what if it takes 12 and your flight leaves on the 8th week and you don't get your passport until the 12th week? You're gonna be pissed, because you're gonna waste money and you're not gonna be able to go nowhere. So you're gonna be looking like boo-boo the motherfucking fool in the house, looking crazy. Do yourself a favor and just get your passport early. Like, just get it early. Get it early. And I also feel like have having a passport, in my opinion, is just like essential, because when you go to travel, it is a lifesaver when you have your passport ready to go. Not having to order you another passport and wait for it to come in. You got to go to the post office and take a picture. Like, nobody got time for that. Just get your passport early and do yourself a favor. And please do yourself a favor, because them girls you're going with, they're gonna leave you. Them hoochies, they're gonna leave you. They're gonna leave you exactly where you at, and you're gonna be pissy because you done missed all the fun behind a passport that you could have got an extra 8 weeks earlier, trying to be cute and shit, but you look crazy. But that's neither here nor there. Let your bank know that you'll be traveling before you do it. I know specifically, I used to have Navy Federal, and there's actually a way on the app that you can actually let them know when you are traveling out of the country or even to another state, because there has been instances where I've tried to use my card, and if they know for a fact I live in Georgia, but I'm in fucking Paris trying to use my card, most of the time they will freeze it. And it isn't like they just gonna block one transaction. No, they're literally gonna freeze your card, and you're gonna have to call them, explain that you're in another country and how pissed off you are because you can't use your card. So depending on how your bank may do it, you may be able to do it on the app, you may be able to call customer service, you may be able to go into a branch. I'm not sure how your bank works all of that out, but you definitely want to let them know when you're planning on taking a trip. And like I said, even if it's a stateside trip and not international, you still want to make sure that you let them know, because it's nothing more inconvenient than having your card not working. Then you got to call customer service and sit on the phone and you waiting and trying to explain and all this different type of stuff. Well, all that could have been avoidable had you just prepared better and told them that you was taking a flight somewhere, right? So let your bank know that you are traveling. Okay. Book your transportation from the hotel that you're flying into early. Do not be that person that waits until you get there, because you're definitely going to be knocked across the head. Like that $20 shuttle that you could have paid for earlier is probably now $30-$40. And then it's like you're kind of in a bad situation because you kind of have no choice but to pay it, because you got to get to your hotel or wherever you're, wherever you're going. So then you end up paying an astronomical amount of money when you could have just booked the shuttle earlier. And a lot of the times too, to book it early, I don't know why people don't like doing that, because you can actually sometimes get a deal. Now if you're doing an Uber or something, cool, but I'm talking about if you're actually like flying into a country like Costa Rica, Jamaica, or Hawaii, sometimes it's more economical to pay for the shuttle earlier. And depending on where you're staying at, if you're staying on a resort, most of the time the resorts have shuttles. So you can even look through them to get your shuttle booked. I know when we went to Cancun, we booked through a third-party place. But they got us to our destination and got us back to our flight when it was time to leave. So I wasn't tripping. And I don't think it was that much neither. And it was, I traveled with my wife and my mom, and we had the whole shuttle to ourselves basically when we left to go to the hotel, and when we decided to leave, we had the shuttle to ourselves. I don't even know if we paid for our own personal shuttle, but that's just how it kind of happened. And they had AC and they had music, and the drivers were great, the hospitality was phenomenal. So yeah, just do yourself a favor and buy your transportation before you go. But especially on these trips with all these fucking hoochies, like why the fuck would you wait until you get there and you trying to transport 15 girls to a hotel? Why would you do that? Because you're gonna need a whole van. And a lot of those places, when you wait until you actually get like off the plane to like go to the resort, if you don't already pay for your transportation early, like a lot of places, they try to put, if you're going to the same hotel, you'll be in the shuttle with like 2 or 3 other families, if y'all can all fit in there and y'all all going to the same destination. So it's just like, why would you do that with 15 girls and y'all need a whole shuttle? Nobody thought to book it earlier. And see, that's why I don't take trips with bitches, because I just don't even get me started. But yeah, don't be that person. Get your transportation earlier. Get a SIM card if you don't have like international calling. I know for me specifically, I'm a cheap ass. I have Visible, and no, this is not sponsored, this is just like for real. I have Visible. Visible does not work outside of Mexico and the United States of America. So if you go to Australia, baby, your fucking phone is not gonna work. You're gonna have to send fucking Morse code over the Wi-Fi, and that's as best as you're gonna get. But you can actually, in most countries, when you like get off of your flight, you can actually buy a SIM card for your phone in said country. Now the crazy thing is though, is that it won't be connected to your number. It'll be from like an international number, but it will give your phone the ability to work and make calls and text and all of that stuff. And I know that's very important for a lot of people who do like backpacking, or you just want to save money on your phone bill, because you know how roaming go, and a lot of companies, I'm not sure if they still do this. It's been so long since I've had like a regular phone service like T-Mobile or Sprint or whatever. But back in the day, like, you used to get knocked across the head if you took a trip and you was making calls on your phone from overseas. I'm not sure if they still do that. I hope they don't. But if they do, it may be beneficial for you to get a SIM card while you're in the airport, so you can make calls and stay in touch. And then, you know, if you're at a hotel, like, they probably have Wi-Fi, so you'll be able to talk to people while you're at the hotel. But if you plan on spending a lot of time off of the resort or off of the hotel, you may want to consider getting a SIM card. Number 9, it's kind of self-explanatory. Check the weather before you go. And I say that because when we went to Mexico, I did not know that it rains a lot in Mexico. When we particularly went, I think we went in March. I don't know if that was the wet season or what season, but I just remember it was raining off and on the entire time we was there. But the weird thing is like, it wouldn't rain consistently. Like, one time we got rained on at the beach. We thinking it's about to pour down raining, so we left the beach. Whole time the clouds moved past and it was clear for the rest of the day. Like, it literally rained for like 5 minutes. And apparently that's like a common thing in Mexico, when we had talked to some of the like people that worked at the resort. But we didn't know that. So we just thinking like, oh shit, it's gonna rain like how it rained back home. And around here, when it starts pouring down raining, it's pouring down raining for hours. So check the weather. Check the weather and dress accordingly. Please check the weather before you go, because you would hate to have a bunch of hot jeans in your luggage and it's fucking freezing cold over there, and you need about 3 big ass Burberry jackets and you don't got it, or Burberry, I don't fucking know, but you gonna wish you had some on your motherfucking arms. You're gonna freeze. So check, do yourself a favor and just check the weather before you go. Like, I don't understand why people don't check the weather. 10, check different airports and compare prices. And this is especially true for international flights. I actually ended up learning from a woman I used to work with when I worked at Walmart. Couldn't stand a bitch, but she actually gave me some really good like advice, because she used to travel a lot with her family. And she told me that leaving out of bigger airports tend to save you more money. Say it again. Leaving out of bigger airports tend to save you money. For example, flying out of a Richmond airport and then flying out of DC, you will still save about $300 or $400 to fly out of a DC airport than a Richmond airport. That has remained consistent pretty much the entire time I've like taken flights, gone places. It's almost 10 times, like, you save like $300, like 3 times more expensive to save going through DC, leaving from their airport. And it used to just be like an 1.5-hour drive, so it's really not that bad for you to save that much money. And you can park your car at the airport for what, $30 a day or something like that. And again, if you do that early enough, you can actually save a substantial amount of money than just trying to pay once you get there. It's like double the price almost. But check different airlines, check different airports, check different times. Like, especially, like, I know some of these places to go to these other countries, it's very expensive. And if you don't have credit card points, like, you may not want to pay $4,000 for a flight, but if you may look at a different airport or a different airline, you may only have to pay half of that, $4,000. And so it's something to keep in mind. Please check prices. If money is an issue for you, I mean, if you big baller shot calling, then do you, boo. But if you're not, compare prices, because you'd be surprised how much money you can save by just tweaking certain little things in your itinerary. 11, check for vaccination requirements for entry into some of these countries. some of these countries where like they may be having a pandemic or have had an issue with certain like diseases and things, some countries will require that you get a vaccination before you enter the country. Sometimes they even require like visas. You just really want to check for anything that could hinder you from entering the country. So you want to check to see if you need a visa to enter the country. You want to see if you need to get any vaccinations. Do you need to get a COVID test before you go? How far ahead does the COVID test have to be? Or do you have to have a COVID vaccination? And how long after the vaccination can you travel? Like, you really want to do your due diligence into looking into some of these countries, because if you don't have the requirements for what they need for you to enter the country, sometimes they will not let you enter. And that's a terrible place to be in, because you didn't already flew there and all this other craziness, and you didn't do your due diligence, so you can't come into the country. Or something super unexpected will happen. Like if you go, I'm not sure if it was like this, but at one point during COVID, to go to like Japan and China and shit, even with the vaccination or like a COVID test, you still had to be in isolation for 14 days. So if you took a 7-day trip and you get over there and realize you got to be in quarantine for 14 days, you didn't set the whole 7 days you were there in the house. Well, in the hotel, wherever they put you at, because that was a requirement for you to be, you know, on house arrest, essentially. Like, on house arrest. So you really do want to check requirements for entering the country, and a lot of that stuff can be accessed online. Like whatever country you're traveling to, you can look up travel requirements and you should be able to find it pretty much online. Like anything you need to do, if it applies to you, it does. If it doesn't, don't pay it no mind. But you can pretty much see everything online. So please do your due diligence before going into some of these countries to make sure that you got what you need so you can get into the country with no issues. And then number 12, check your airline's baggage policy. Especially for these long haul flights, you really want to check the requirements in terms of baggage, because I know especially like if you take like a 14-day trip, I know some people can't fit 14 days worth of clothes into a carry-on. So you really want to, like, again, do your due diligence. I cannot stress that enough, because you'd be surprised how many people don't do their due diligence and just go willy-nilly and take these trips. And then those are the people you be seeing on TikTok with a sob story about how 3 things of their luggage got thrown out because they wasn't doing their due diligence. But yeah, I will see y'all in my next video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. I love interacting with you guys up there, and I will see you in my next video.